Watch the spade go into the ground. It cuts clean and lifts a clump up into the morning light. Turn it over and look at the cut face. A thin white thread runs through it, torn in half by the blade. That thread was alive, a strand of fungus feeding a tomato plant a foot away, and you severed it without meaning any harm. Most of us were taught that turning the soil each spring is honest work, the thing a good gardener does. So here is the plain question. What if the digging is the very thing wearing your garden down? By the end, you will know 3 plain reasons the spade takes more than it gives, and one method you can use this weekend: spade left in the shed. This is groundwork, where the land, the history, and the hard-won sense of it meet. To see why, go back to a small Connecticut garden in the 1950s, where a retired writer named Ruth Stout stopped digging and let the ground do the work. That torn thread has a name, and a woman in Connecticut spent 40 years proving what happens when you leave it alone. Turn the soil, and you cut a living thread you cannot see. Look at that white strand torn across the clod. It is a fungus. Roughly 8 in 10 plants lean on it, wrapped around their roots, trading water for sugar. Cabbage family crops and beets skip the deal. One pass of the spade shreds that thread. The plant still stands, but it must rebuild its whole supply line from nothing. Weeks of repair, all to undo one afternoon with a spade. I have watched a bed do this more times than I can count. And it is not only the fungus. Left alone, earthworms tunnel down feet on their own, and their channels stay open the year round. The spade breaks them every time. Here is the sign. Dig a bed, and the spring after, water pools on top and sits. The worm channels are gone. Leave the ground alone, and a year on, the water sinks in. That is the thread mending itself. What does the same cut look like once it stops happening at all? Lesson 2 is about the dark. A weed-free bed floods with green a week after you turn it because you woke something that was sleeping. Look at the dark soil the spade just rolled over. Every handful carries weed seeds, and seed bank studies have found some still viable after decades in the dark. And here is the part they leave out of the lesson. Many will not sprout in the dark at all. They wait for a signal that they have reached the surface, and that signal is light. Turning the soil drags those sleeping seeds up into daylight, the one cue they wait for. You planted none of them, yet now they race your vegetables for the same bed. Watch what a week does. Turn a bed over, and a week to 10 days later, the whole surface comes up green, a carpet of weeds you never sowed. Leave the ground covered, keep the seeds in the dark, and that flush never comes. Same wound, different weapon. Dig to clean a bed, and you wake the next crop of weeds. Leave the dark alone, and it keeps them asleep for you. One more lesson lives in that same cut. Stay for the history a minute. It is why the fix works at any size, 1 bed or 100 million acres. The same cut leaves a mark you can walk across. Step past the garden fence and out onto the open prairie. Nobody stopped at 1 bed. Back in 1862, the law gave a man free land if he broke the sod and farmed it. So the plow went in mile after mile. Nobody was careless. They did exactly what the law asked. But think what the plow was cutting. Prairie sod that had held the ground for thousands of years was broken open in a few decades, and once the drought came, there was nothing left to hold the soil. It is the thread from Lesson 1, roots, fungus, worm channels run large across a whole grassland, and the plow cut every strand of it. Then the 30s came dry. Roughly 100 million acres of the Great Plains, near the whole of California, turned to dust and blew away east on the wind. Same thread. This time the bill came due across 100 million acres. Cut the thread on one bed and you lose a season. Cut it across 100 million acres and families walked off the land for good. The Dust Bowl left 100 million acres bare. Here is the lesson that grows it back, and you can start this weekend. Once a year, spread finished compost you trust, 2 to 5 centimeters, and let the worms carry it down. Heavy clay or old weeds need a thicker first layer, or cardboard underneath. You might not believe a garden runs on that little, so look at who tested it. In Connecticut in the 1950s, Ruth Stout worked one plot for 40 years with no spade, just a thick mat of spoiled hay. And in Somerset, since 2007, Charles Dowding has run 2 beds side by side, one dug, one never touched. In his trial, the undug bed keeps pace with the dug one on close to half the labor. I have seen the same hold in my own rows. Check it yourself. After a year, push your fingers into the soil under the mulch. Soft, dark, crumbly, the way a fallen leaf breaks down on the ground. This is groundwork, where the land, the history, and the plain hard-won sense meet. So this weekend, when the bed needs turning and the shed is right there, what if you left the spade on the wall and spread an inch of compost instead? Now go back to where this started. The same bed, the same clod of soil lifted in your hand, held at the same angle you first saw it. Only this time, the spade never touched it, and the white thread running through it is whole. That thread is the fungus reaching out to the roots, joined to 8 in 10 of the plants you grow. Leave it uncut, and it feeds the plant, holds the ground together, and carries water down where the roots can find it. That is the whole of it, the roots, the worms, the fungus, all working the soil so you do not have to. A good bed loses a season of work under a spade. Left alone, it comes back soft and dark within a year. So next time the ground looks like it wants turning, ask one quiet thing before you reach for the spade. Does it really? This is groundwork, where the land, the history, and the plain, hard-won sense meet.